Hi, I'm Danny, welcome back to my channel, and today is going to be a video of a mixture of things. I want to talk about my top 10 books that I read last year, I want to talk about the reading year that I had, and I would also like to talk about some goals, putting that in inverted commas, that I have for next year. This year. I keep forgetting that we are already in 2026. I am filming this on the day I hopefully upload it, which is Monday the 5th of January 2026, and let's get into it. So I read 75 books last year, which is the best reading year I've ever had. Bearing in mind the year before I read 18 books, so I was on a roll last year. I read such a variety of genres. I really discovered my love of literary fiction. I've been trying to say that because it's such a hard word for me to say. I don't know if it's because I'm Scottish, but yeah. And I read quite a lot of... Did I read a lot of fantasy? I read a few fantasy books. I read quite a few series, caught up with a few series, and also, surprisingly, my top genre was romance, which I wasn't expecting, but I think it's because these books had maybe romance subplots, which counted it as romance on Storygraph, because I use Storygraph. But yeah, let's just crack on. So a few memorable mentions. I'm looking down at my phone because I've got like my notes here. So a few honourable mentions was, starting off with the romance, Reckless by Elsie Silver. I have been quite mixed with this series. I'm pretty sure one of the books in the series I gave 2.5 stars, and then this one was 5 stars, so it shows you how mixed I found this series. But this is the fourth one in the series, and it follows Summer's sister Winter, who's in the first book, and Theo, who is like a family friend, but he's basically like an adopted brother in with the other ones, and I just thoroughly enjoyed it. It was such an easy read. I think I flew through this book. I can't remember how long it took me, but I loved all the characters in this book. I loved the romance in this book, and yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised with this one. Another one that I thoroughly enjoyed but didn't quite make it onto my top 10 was Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. If anybody knows me, Outlander is my favourite TV series of all time. I absolutely love Outlander, and I cannot wait for the final series to be aired. But yeah, this follows a nurse from 1946, and she's on honeymoon with her husband in the Highlands, in Inverness, and she somehow goes through these stones and wakes up and discovers she's in 1743 Scotland, and it's just, the first book in particular is just so Scottish, and yeah, absolutely loved that one. Then we have Wandering Souls by Cecil Pinn. This took me a long time to finally get round to reading it because it was shortlisted? It was longlisted for the Women's Prize back in 2023. Had it on my shelves for ages, thought I would give it a go. It focuses on these children from Vietnam who come over to Britain when, I think, is it the Vietnam War or something's happening in Vietnam, and they come over to Britain, and it's basically about them being immigrants and yeah, making a new life in Britain. And yeah, thought that was a good one. That was 5 stars. These were all 5 stars. And then Her Majesty's Royal Coven by Juno Dawson. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. This was a book club book for I used to be in an in-person book club, and this was one of the books that we read, and I flew through this. I listened to the audiobook, and it's that Nicola Coughlan, I think is how you say her name. She's in Derry Girls, and she's in Bridgerton, and she narrates all the different accents, and it was incredible. Follows a witch's coven, and they're all trying to stop this cursed child. Yeah, worth a read. Witchy, if you're into witches, then give it a go. And then another one, which I will insert here, was A Room A Room Above a Shop, and I can't actually remember the name of Anthony somebody, it'll be here. Yeah, I really enjoyed that book. It was about a man who basically falls in love with another man, but it's at a time where it's not frowned upon, but well, it is frowned upon. Like, people were very homophobic back then, and it's just about his life with this man and falling in love with this man, and it was so heartbreaking and beautiful. It was only about 120 pages, but yeah, absolutely loved that. I literally just paused the video so I could get my pages up on Storygraph. Yeah, it was Anthony Shapland, that A Room Above a Shop. So now I'm going to go into my top 10. So this actually surprised me, but number 10 was Keeping 13 by Chloe Walsh. This is the second book in the Boys of Tomlin series. This follows Shannon and Johnny. Johnny's like the star of the rugby team, and Shannon is the new girl at school who has a very hard childhood. Like, book 1 is heartbreaking. I won't tell you what book 2 is about. Basically follows on from book 1, but book 1, if you're going to pick up Finding 13, is it Finding 13? Yeah. You need to look up trigger warnings, because there's a lot of hard issues it deals with, in particular child abuse, so go into it knowing that. But yeah, I was so surprised that how much I loved this book, because I don't know, I thought it was about teenagers, and I just thought I would not enjoy it at all, but yeah, surprisingly I really loved this one. Then in 9th place is Never Lie by Frida McFadden. I'll leave this up here. That book, the reason I loved that book so much is I literally sat and went, oh, at the reveal. And if a book does that, makes me gasp out loud at the reveal, it is a good book for me. And my partner had already read it, and he was sitting opposite me, and he was like, it's so good, isn't it? So it is about a woman who, her and her husband go to look at this house, but there's snow, they get snowed in this house, so they have to stay in the house. And there was a psychiatrist who lived in that house, and she's went missing, so that's basically how the house is now up for sale. And then strange goings on happen in this house, but the twist, did not see it coming. And that's not a spoiler, because if you ever read Frida McFadden books, it is well known with Frida McFadden, there's always a twist in the story. Just the way she writes, there's always a twist, and I never guessed the twist. Some of her books have been like meh, but this one was amazing. Then we have in 8th place, no, 7th, no, it is 8th. 8th place we have The House of My Mother by Shari Franke. This was a hard read. This is also dealing with child abuse, so trigger warnings, but this is her story about living with an abusive parent. And if you don't know, they were a massive YouTube family. Eight Passengers was their YouTube channel. They had like 2.5 million subscribers. She talks about when they started making all the money and things, but her mum and her business partner they're in jail currently for abusing mostly her little brothers and sisters, because Shari escapes, and there's a whole story to this, but I listened to it on audio, and it was Shari who was actually narrating it, and absolutely heartbreaking, because if you look at the video, apparently in the videos a lot of people like picked up on things that weren't right, like the way the mother was treating the children. They picked up on it, and I think a lot of people did actually report her, but it took one of the children escaping to actually to anything being done for it, and then the conditions they found them in was just horrendous. So yeah, definitely worth a read, but it was really hard. Then we have Small Joys by Elvin James Mensah. Sorry, I'm looking down because I don't have these books. And this was on a recommendation of Charlie, and she was like, Danny, I think you'll absolutely love this book. And she was absolutely right. This book has, like, it made me cry, and then the next page it would make me laugh. Follows this guy, I can never remember the name of the main character, and he has left uni and he's like moved in with a flatmate, and then he becomes friends with this guy called Muddy, and Muddy is just the best character ever. Like, I want Muddy as a friend. But yeah, this guy's family, well, his dad in particular, is quite homophobic, and some of what his dad says to him made me cry. It was just so cruel. But yeah, definitely worth a go, and I'm so glad that Charlie recommended that to me. Then I have Wisteria by Adeline Grace. This, I don't know what I've done with the cover for this, but this is the third book in the Foxglove series, and it was my favourite one of the series. It was just so good, absolutely loved it. I buddy read it with Emily from Novel Novels, and I just wanted to keep reading it. I didn't want to stop, but yeah, it was amazing. So yeah, and finally I caught up with the series, which I was very happy about. Then we have The Woman by Kristen Hanna. So if you don't know, The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna is probably my favourite book of all time that I've ever read. So I am trying to catch up and read her books. I've only read The Nightingale and The Four Winds so far, and obviously The Woman, and I got The Great Alone for Christmas, so I've started reading that one. But The Woman follows the women who were involved in, I want to say, the Vietnam War. If it's incorrect, I will post what it is, but it's when America got involved, and it seems that a lot of history says that there was no women there, but this is proven otherwise. It follows a girl who went over to be a nurse in Vietnam, and oh my goodness, the things that she witnessed was just horrendous, and that book did make me cry. Then we have Nesting, which was shortlisted for the, was it even short? No, it was longlisted for the Women's Prize, and it is an absolute travesty that that book was not shortlisted and did not win. It was amazing, and that was by Roisin O'Donnell. This was her first book that she's ever published, and it was incredible. Follows a woman in Ireland who is in an abusive relationship, and she leaves that abusive relationship with her 2 children, and it just follows her trying to restart her life. And again, trigger warnings before you go into that, but I just thought it was incredible, and absolute travesty that it did not win. Then we have a book that is my last read of 2025, and it is The Names by Florence Knapp. And this book has very similar feels to me to Nesting, and I don't know if that's why I loved it so much, but it basically follows this little boy, and his mother is in the prologue is going to register him, and then she imagines what life, well, it tells the story of what his life would be like if he had the name Bear, which is what her daughter wanted to call him, Julian, which is what she wanted to call him, or Gordon, which was the family name and what her husband wanted to call him. And it does 7-year increments and follows him as he's grown up and what would happen if went for either of those names. Again, it deals with domestic abuse, and quite hard-hitting domestic abuse, so definitely look at the trigger warnings before you go into this. But this was yet again another debut, and it was fantastic. So if you've not read The Names, I thoroughly recommend that. Then the top 2 books could change based on how my mood is feeling on the day, but second place, Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J Maas. Now, this was what I caught up with this year. I read the last, was it three Throne of Glass books, and I also caught up with the ACOTAR books as well, so I'm caught up with that series, finished this series, and I just have the last of the Crescent City series to finish, and that is me caught up with all Sarah J Maas. But this is how you end a series. It was a beast. It was about, how many pages was it? Just under 1,000 pages, and it broke my heart into pieces. It was incredible. It was just, I have no words to describe how good this book was and how awesome Throne of Glass is, considering how young Sarah was when she wrote this book. But it was just incredible. Throne of Glass follows a woman called Selena, and she is imprisoned, and then she is taken out of prison to compete to become the king's assassin. So the first book deals with her going through these different trials to try and get that place, and yeah, absolutely amazing. Just, I'm so glad that I finally read this series. And then coming in first place is Shuggie Bain by Douglas Stewart. This book has been on my shelf for I don't know how long. I'm pretty sure Ange bought me this book one Christmas because she loved it, and then we buddy read it. Me, Ange, Jack from Spread Book Joy, and Charlie from Charlie Brooks Reads, we all buddy read this book, and I read ahead of everybody because I loved it so much. It follows this young boy called Shuggie as he grows up in Glasgow, looking at I think they start off in a tenement and then they move house, and basically his mother is an alcoholic and his dad, yet again there seems to be a theme with my books, his dad is abusive, so it follows what it's like for him growing up with a mother who's an alcoholic. Absolutely heartbreaking what he has to deal with. It's narrated by Douglas Stewart as well, another audio I listened to on audio and followed along with the book, and it was just incredible. This book will forever live with me. It's up there, one of my favourite books ever that I've read. And yeah, if you've not read Shuggie Bain, please give it a go. I can't tell you how much I love that book. So they were my top favourite books, and I just want to go through my goals. So I have the gorgeous always fully booked planner, thanks to Becca for sorting it out for everyone, and I have just got a few goals here. You can see I started off like strong and then I just went for writing, but my goals for next year are to read 52 books, so that's one book a week. I really need to get on that because so far I've not read a book. DNF more often. Now people will be like, Danny, but you DNF all the time. But I tend to like pause a book and then try and go back to it, and then because I'm like, oh, but I'm 40% through that book, I could just go back and read it because then that'll be a number. But I want to be more intentional with my reading and be like, no, you're not enjoying that book, just sack it off. Just leave it. Don't go back to it. You're done. Read a variety of genres. So I found the year before, not last year, but the year before when I read 18 books, I feel like I was trying to read the same genre all the time, and I just found myself getting into massive reading slumps and then not reading for literally months. So I want to mix up my genres. When I looked at my tally for what I'd read, I think my top one was romance, second was fantasy, third was literary, and I think then mystery, thrillers. And I feel like mixing up the genres was really good for me. I read such a variety of books, because this is just a small handful of the books that I read, and I really enjoyed them. Like I really enjoyed thinking, oh, I'm going to read a fantasy this week, but next week I'll read a literary fiction book. And yeah, I really discovered my love of literary fiction this year, and that's getting harder and harder for me to say. I want to read one classic and I already know that I'm going to read Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen, because that is the one Jane Austen book I've not read. So I'm going to read that for Jane Austen July. I want to take part in Ben Reed's challenge, so he has a different challenge every single month. So like this month is Scranuary, so you have to read a book that features food in the title. So I want to try and do his challenge. I want to take part in the Reading Spa, which is by Jen the Librarian and Keri reads. This is a very relaxed reading challenge. Every month there's different prompts, and it's basically like you know those old this will show my age, those old magazines where you used to follow to find out who your celebrity crush was or something like that. So they do that every month, and then you just follow and that chooses your book for you. So my one I've got is read like the most recent book you've got or something, so that's why I'm reading The Great Alone by Kristen Hannah, because that is the one I got for Christmas. And then I want to really focus on trying to finish series. I have so many series that I've just read the first or second books and I've not finished them, so I did do quite a good job of that last year, so I want to continue with that. And then the last one is post regular to YouTube. So my videos, as you've seen, have been very sporadic, but I want to really make a goal of on a Monday just filming a video and then posting the video on the same day, so at least there'll be one video a week from me. I have no reason why I can't do this. I have the house to myself on a Monday, and I should be making better use of my time, and it's a hobby and I enjoy doing it, so I want to get back to doing it again. But yeah, I need to try and think of video ideas and topics that I would like to discuss. I have a few topics that I want to talk about, mostly about reading, and obviously because this is a reading channel, but more about, I find, and I don't know if anyone else feels like this, but I find that I used to try and fit into a type of mould and only read specific types of books, and would feel that I wasn't a proper reader if I wasn't reading books that were like booktube darlings, or was really literary books, or you know, but now I've realised that just read what you want. But I want to make a video on that. But yeah, that is this video finished. It is quite a long video, so if you stuck around, thank you very much, and I will see you in my next video, which will hopefully be next week, and I will speak to you all soon. Bye bye.